curious. This UPEX package wasn't here before. It appears to be a Braille alphabet.
Nexus? What does that stand for?
I'm not sure it stood for anything. But I surmised that it had to do with Greg Call's secret base of operations. Now I had to ask around to see if anyone knew about it. You'll never guess who did.
You caught me at the last moment, Mr. Murphy. I was preparing to go abroad.
That sounds good. You know, I've heard Amsterdam is great.
Everything you've heard is true. I highly recommend it. Now, I think I can spare you a few moments before I leave. Your investigation has certainly got you into some obscure channels. Years ago, well after the government signed the UNGP treaty, Gideon Enterprises bought the rights to utilize dozens of abandoned government installations. Nexus was the code name for an underground military facility located in Washington State near Mount Shasta. I don't believe we ever used the location. I'm afraid I haven't heard of it. I don't know who he is. Now there's a name I haven't heard in ages. I hired Sam to work at Gideon some 15 years ago, and after a decade of fruitful labors, we parted amicably. And then, sadly, we lost touch. Gregory was my right-hand man when I founded Gideon Enterprises, a brilliant programmer. Until recently, he headed a division of the corporation. I heard that Shimming fired him, undoubtedly removing the last traces of my influence. I wish I could be of more assistance. Well, these chess moves are curious and vaguely familiar. Or perhaps they were part of some fabled match I may have read about. I can't say for certain.
Nexus Base took a long time to find, and I won't bore you with the details, but the installation looked totally derelict from the outside. Once I found a way inside, I entered an underground laboratory that was brand new, state-of-the-art.
Was there anyone there?
No, but as soon as I stepped inside, I did hear a voice.
Stand by for system scan.
So those men that jumped you had put some sort of implant into your head.
Exactly. And it seemed like I was in the best possible place to do something to remove it. I started looking around with just that in mind.
Just that in mind. No pun intended, I'm sure.
This thing gives me flashbacks to my former dentist and the horrible wisdom teeth incident. Some kind of chart. Maybe watching all those ER reruns will finally pay off. Oh, there's a card on the clipboard. If the implant I'm carrying around is on this list, it must be number P333. Now I need to figure out which of the kamikaze implants will neutralize it. Rubik's keyboards, putting the challenge back into data entry. Oh, a chip-making device manufactured by Frito Intel. The two megacorporation merged a few years back and cornered the chip market. The special Mengele model syringe. Seems to be a large light panel. Well, I certainly hope the switch doesn't control anything potentially lethal. Well, this should make a nice addition to my passcard collection. Lynx LS mug. I've got to play that one of these days. The mysterious informant said I'd find answers to all my questions if I found this place. Maybe this computer is the mother lode. STG must have bought these passcard readers in bulk. Hey, slushy machines. Well, this looks like an autoclave. It's used for storing items in a sterile environment. A security card reader. Must be for the autoclave. These aren't the ones I need. That's the one I'm looking for. I guess Greg Call must have designed the solution to neutralize the Overseer implants. Now I have to find a way to inject it into my bloodstream.
You injected yourself with that thing?
I had to. Then I went into the scanning booth. The fun was just starting. Implant removal station. Well, the IRS has always been good at removing everything else from me. green diamond must indicate the location of the P333 implant. I have to move the kamikaze implant into one of the blood vessels where it will appear as a blue cross. Then, I have to navigate it until it reaches the implant and neutralizes it. Uh-oh. Those flashing dots look like trouble. Must represent antibodies. And I guess they're out to get rid of the new infection. I'd better steer clear. I'd neutralized the Overseer chip, which someone had designed to be fatal in my case, or a controlling device to others. I still had no idea who was pulling the strings, but as I stepped out of the removal station, I heard sounds just outside the main entrance. I ducked behind a display panel and waited to see who it was.
Hello? Hello? Okay. I'm really not very good with surprises.
Well, it isn't my mystery man. What's your name?
Larry Hammond. I would have told you earlier, but I have some serious trust issues going on. With all that's happened, I've got the right to be a little paranoid.
Yeah, I guess you do. You haven't been using the code name Poison Pawn, have you?
No. Why?
That's not important. How'd you get here?
I followed you. I wanted to make sure you came here alone.
Well, I hope you were more careful about being followed than I was.
Now, I have a very strong sense of self-preservation. I even brush my teeth carefully.
Yeah, it shows. Why don't we just start at the top and see what you know? Tell me about Carl Linsky.
Well, Linsky and I both worked on STG. But I didn't know him back then. I recognized his picture in the paper from when he had his suicide.
Well, that's helpful. How about STG?
It was a really mysterious operation. When Greg brought me in to do some programming, I didn't know anybody on the design team, and we weren't encouraged to get to know each other either. Once we got our instructions, we went off to work in different places. None of us knew what each other was working on.
So, who's in charge of this little circus?
Greg had been there the longest. He was pretty much running the show.
So is he this overlord I've come to hear so much about?
Oh, no, there had to have been higher-ups. I knew Greg for a long time. We were in Mutant League together.
Oh. Just so I understand something here, the reason you got in contact with me is because you wanted me to find Carl's lab, right? Why?
Well, early on in the program, Greg got really paranoid and relocated his base of operations. And no one knew where he was at. I didn't even see him until after I finished my work with STG. A couple of weeks ago, after all the mysterious deaths, I decided to go underground and get a read on my life expectancy. Well, you see, I was underground and Greg found me, which didn't give me a great sense of well-being. Anyway, he said he needed my help.
To do what?
He wanted to find the pass cards we'd all been issued. You see, all 8 of us received these cards at the beginning of the project. They were used to transmit data from wherever we were working to some sort of central computer. Now, the whereabouts of that computer, that was top secret.
Well, what about the chess moves?
Oh, I don't know anything about those. I think they were Greg's idea. He designed the cards.
And you've got a card.
Yeah. You take it. Just holding the thing next to my skin just gives me the hives.
No, it's that polyester.
Really?
You told me if I came here that I was going to get the answer to all of my questions.
I said that? No, I was just guessing. I've got something that might help. Now, Greg gave me this the last time I saw him. Now, he said, don't open it unless something happened to him. I think something happened to him.
What are we supposed to do with it?
What are we supposed to do with it? It's your problem now. I told you everything I know. I gave you a pass card, and I gave you what Greg gave me. I'm out of here. I'm gonna go somewhere and try not to get killed. Hasta la pasta, baby.
Hey, Larry. Thanks for the help.
Anytime.
So Larry was the mysterious informant. And he said he wasn't the poison pawn. Well, what was in the envelope he gave you?
There was a note written from Greg Call to Larry. There was more to the content of the note than met the eye. Pass card reader's hooked up. Now I'll need to scan the pass card. Larry's pass card. The corresponding scrambled password is written on the envelope Larry gave me. This was Greg Call's pass card.
To Larry, or whoever's watching this, I'll have to assume that my first plan has failed, and I'm probably dead. The purpose of this message is a warning, and afterwards my computer will reformat, so listen up. I've enjoyed a long friendship with J. St. Gideon. We founded Gideon Enterprises together years ago, and I believe that he is a good man and has honorable intentions, regardless of how I may disagree with his philosophy. For years, he has worked on a program called Overlord, a worldwide surveillance system which would allow him ultimately to control key political figures, thereby speeding up the world peace process. This was all made possible about a year ago. A breakthrough in nanotechnology allowed us to create microscopic devices that, once implanted inside someone, would allow us to control the physiological reactions, the chemical reactions, make the person a slave to positive response. And in this way was born the STG project, sort of a Pavlovian remote control program. We recruited 7 other scientists and put them on different phases of the project so none of them would know what the entire project was about. We gave them pass cards which would allow them to transmit data to a central Overlord computer. I found out shortly thereafter that John Klaus, one of the scientists, was intending to sell out the project to the Law and Order Party. When I went to Gideon with my fears, he disregarded them. Either he knew something that I didn't, or he was simply too obsessed to listen to reason. Regardless, I took it upon myself to implement a fail-safe program into Overlord, which I called Stalemate. Now, in order to activate this stalemate failsafe program in the Overlord system, all 8 STG pass cards are required. I made a plan to track down the other 7 pass cards. I started with Carl Linsky's home once I'd learned that he'd committed suicide, but I was unable to find the card. The thought crossed my mind that since Carl Linsky and John Klaus were friends, that possibly Linsky staged his own death and is working with Law and Order and John Klaus. But I can't substantiate that. At this point, I'm not sure who I can trust, outside of Larry Hammond and J. St. Gideon, though I'm not sure how much J. St. Gideon will listen to me at this point. Regardless, Gideon's program, Overlord, must be deactivated. If not by me, then by whoever's watching this message.
I knew it!
You knew what?
Sylvia was behind the whole thing. Oh, it all fits together now. Of course, Linsky staged his own suicide.
Okay, you got yourself an interesting theory now. Play with it.
Well, okay. Linsky worked at the clinic, right?
Right.
And, well, there's a lot of patients there, and, maybe one was in a coma or terminally ill, and Linsky finds one that is about his same size, maybe even looks like him. And I think that's where Linsky probably gets the idea. So he dresses the patient in his clothes. He, plants the wallet, the keys, and the suicide note on him. They, dump the body in the bay, and it's recovered, and who identifies it?
Sylvia.
Please, we're finished, please. Well, did I get it? Did I figure it out?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe so.
So, well, then why don't you tell me the rest?
Actually, I'm fascinated by your story. Why don't you tell me what you'd do next?
If it were me, I would probably go to the Law and Order party headquarters.
That's exactly where I went, because now I had Robert Knott's pass card.
This time, there was no sign of our friendly night watchman, though I figured he was around somewhere. I doubted the coffee trick would work again, so I had to figure out another plan. It's a piece of propaganda from your friends at Law and Order. There must be hidden cameras in all the rooms. This could be a problem with a conscious security guard hanging around. I was lucky to get in without the guard seeing me, but I figured he was somewhere in the building. I'd be in trouble if he returned to the front desk and checked out the monitors, so I had to figure something out fast. This security camera could be a potential health risk. I'm extremely photosensitive. I've never been musically inclined, but I have been known to take a stand on occasion.
Pretty smart. You saw that on Mission Impossible, didn't you?
Oh? Did they use that trick too? Why, I had no idea.
Did you have any problems setting up the photo?
Are you kidding? What do you think I am, an idiot? the birthplace of the Law and Order Party, the stinking backwaters of Hatfield-McCoy country. Auntie-M! Auntie-M! This pleasant ensemble makes me feel right at home. Furniture in here looks like it was set up for a bridge tournament. I wonder what the Law and Order Party platform says about hobbits. Quality plastic place settings. Only the best for Law and Order Party boosters. Quality plastic place settings. Only the best for Law and Order Party boosters. Well, it never occurred to me to make Jell-O with Fruit Chunky style. Chopsticks. Looks like the Law and Order dinner was German Chinese food. An hour after you eat, you're hungry for power. Rug lo mein. Well, heaven help us if dogs ever get the vote. This painting gives me a warm fuzzy. I guess they like to party on the patio. The Law and Order Party beach towel. They're tough on crime, downy soft on you. I'll bet there's some interesting secrets behind this door. Odd. The ozonator seems to have a good-sized hole in it. This must be John Klaus's little shop of horrors. This thing must be hard to keep clean. It sure is a popular model. I see it everywhere. Well, here's something they filed on the floor. I think Klaus has night fever, and he knows how to show it. Maybe Klaus moonlights as a film critic. Something tells me I may not want to look at this photo. Not Gideon, too. This time Sylvia has a lot of explaining to do. Chances are probably about 0 that I'll get into Klaus's computer. An interoffice memo. I have a weak spot for insider information. Implant procedures. Question is, if they just want to kill people, why did they go through all the trouble of the implants? What's the real purpose behind using them? I don't like to think what Klaus would be doing with a barrel of acid. Slaughterhouses must require good ventilation. Karl Linsky's name is on the printout. That explains Linsky's surgery It may also explain his suicide. The syringe from hell. I'm surprised this thing doesn't have a stretching mechanism on it. These tools look like something out of Dead Ringers. A cat picture. Interesting. Klaus doesn't strike me as an animal lover. Tape player. I'm not so sure I want to hear what's on this. I'll pass on the sandwich, but a super squishy sounds pretty darn good. I guess Klaus has drawn a little blood in here. Lovely. I'm surprised this thing doesn't have a stretching mechanism on it. I may be one of the few people to go back through that door outside of a body bag. I'd gotten everything I needed out of Law and Order, but the odds were pretty good that the guard was waiting in the lobby. I had to figure out a way to get him away from the front desk without letting him know I was in the building. After my narrow escape from Law and Order, I went home and crashed, but I slept like hell. Slade was still out there, undoubtedly looking for me, and I had nightmares about John Klaus, the mad scientist, turning everyone into zombies. When I woke up the next day, I had no idea what was going to happen. Little did I know, later that day, I'd find out the identity of the poisoned pawn. Sounds like I've got a message on the vid phone.